Hello, good morning and a very warm welcome to you. I'm Rachel and you're watching Kalkine TV live from Sydney. This is the Global Markets Roundup show where we bring you a glimpse of equity, currency and commodity markets from across the globe. Benchmark US indices closed higher on Wednesday. That's after Federal Chair Jerome Powell reiterated at a Congressional hearing that inflation is transitory and the economic recovery is on the right path. The S&P 2%, the Dow Jones rose 0.13% and the Nasdaq fell 0.22%. Small cap Russell 2000 was down 1.63%. Mr. Powell did say that inflation will remain high for most of the year, but would eventually come down. His comments lifted the spirits of investors as they saw a silver lining in the clouds after the comments. The Fed chief did reiterate that inflation would return to the central bank's 2% range. He also stressed that the current pace of the U.S. economic recovery had not met the Fed's expectations just yet. Once that does improve, the bank may consider tapering its monetary stimulus support. Utility and real estate stocks were the top movers on the S&P 500. 5 of the 11 major segments of the blue chip index remained in positive territory. The energy stocks were the bottom movers. In other major developments, Senate Democrats unveiled a $3.5 trillion spending plan to improve health care and to help fight poverty. Senate leader Chuck Schumer said that the latest amount would be in addition to the provisions under the $579 billion infrastructure plan announced earlier. Democrats are expected to advance the bill through the reconciliation process. And in corporate news, Bank of America, Citigroup and Wells Fargo released their second quarter earnings report. Their robust second quarter results beat analysts' expectations. However, shares of Bank of America were down 3.41%. Citigroup dropped 1.12%, but Wells Fargo rose 3.59%. Investment management firm BlackRock says that its revenues climbed 32% to $4.8 billion and net income rose 14% to $1.38 billion. However, the stock ticked down 2.86% after its CEO Larry Fink rejected Mr. Powell's assertion and said inflation would exceed 2% annually in the next 5 years. He also says that government policies would increase inflationary pressures. Moving on, social media giant Facebook says it would spend more than $1 billion by 2022 to support content creators to compete with other social platforms like TikTok and YouTube. In addition, it says the content creators would be paid through its bonus program for milestone achievers. Despite the positive news, Facebook shares were down 0.98% from the previous close. Apple shares, meanwhile, increased by 2.5%. Microsoft shares rose 0.72% and ASML Holding shares gained 1.84%. Nvidia Corp shares fell 1.46%. Oracle shares advanced 1.67%. The technology sector saw gains on Wednesday's session. And in the utility sector, shares in NextEra Energy rose 1.52%. Duke Energy shares increased by 1.25%. And the Southern Company saw their shares rise 1.04%. Dominion Energy and Exelon Corporation, their shares advanced 1.12% and 1% respectively. ExxonMobil Corp shares dropped 1.95%. Chevron shares fell 1.58% and PetroChina Company shares dropped 3.15%. BP shares ticked down 1.08% and ConocoPhillips were down 2.54%. Moving on to the cryptocurrency world now, Coinbase Global, their shares dropped 4.19% while Bitcoin gained 0.31% and Ethereum added 1.2%. Moving on now to the futures and commodities. Gold futures were up 1.03%. Silver increased 0.75% while copper fell 0.92%. Brent oil decreased 0.01% and WTI crude was down 3.07%. Looking over to the bond market now, and the 30-year Treasury bond yields were down 3.11%, while the 10-year bond yields decreased 4.65%. The US dollar futures index decreased 0.42%. That's the latest news from the US markets. Now it's time for a very short break. Please stay tuned. I'll be back very soon to take a look at the UK market.
Hi, this is Andy Lou broadcasting from Kalkine Media Studio in Australia, and I'll be hosting the new Kalkine Wellness Show. The half-hour show will cover topics from how wellness as a concept has become even more significant during COVID, to how becoming vegan may improve your health, and much more. We are excited to showcase our live streaming show to our audience of millions overseas and in Australia. Tune in to Kalkine TV and join me.
As the world navigates through the COVID-19 crisis, innovation and digital transformation are helping us ride through the pandemic woes, learn how to think differently, ignite, manage and sustain in an uncertain world from the leaders in innovation. Mark your calendars for an insightful discussion with CEO and founder of Space Talk, Mr. Mark Fortunato, and co-founder and CEO of Early Birds, Mr. Chris Poria, in Kalkine Media's exclusive Invest Nest webinar on July 23rd, 2021 at 12:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time. Our client, Space Talk, is a technology company that is all about keeping families confidently connected through Australian-designed wearable devices. It offers stylish, standalone mobile phones built into a smartwatch for kids as well as adults. While Early Birds, also our client, is a B2B platform that is helping organisations to transform with actionable innovation by connecting innovators and early adopters based on industry, business function and expected outcomes. So, it is time to get some valuable insights from these stalwarts, making a unique position in terms of innovation. Block your seats now and enter the future of revolution with Kalkine Media.
Welcome back. I'm Rachel and you're watching Kalkine TV live from Sydney. This is the Global Markets Roundup show. Let us now take a look at the UK market. London markets traded in the red zone after the release of the critical UK inflation data. The Office for National Statistics report shows consumer price inflation rose to 2.5% annually during June 2021 as compared to 2.1% for the prior month. The FTSE 250 listed Dunelm Group shares plunged by around 5.35%, although it had raised the full-year guidance due to the impressive fourth quarter sales, helped by strong pent-up demand after the reopening of stores. Coats Group shares rose by around 2.31% after the company increased the full-year guidance driven by strong business performance during the first half of the current fiscal year. Barratt Developments had lifted the expectations of full-year profitability driven by solid demand. Furthermore, the shares went up by around 1.89%. International Consolidated Airlines Group shares went down by around 0.87%. That's after Raymond James had downgraded the stock to market perform. We just looked at UK market performance. It's time for a short break, but after the break we will look at the Australian stock market, so stay tuned to Kalkine TV.
Hi, this is Andy Lou broadcasting from Kalkine Media Studio in Australia, and I'll be hosting the new Kalkine Wellness Show. The half-hour show will cover topics from how wellness as a concept has become even more significant during COVID, to how becoming vegan may improve your health, and much more. We are excited to showcase our live streaming show to our audience of millions overseas and in Australia. Tune in to Kalkine TV and join me.
Welcome back. I'm Rachel and you're watching Kalkine TV live from Sydney. This is the Global Markets Roundup show. The Australian share market's under pressure today. That's after global stocks ended flat overnight as US Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell eased concerns by saying that a recent inflation surge would soon fade. The lockdown in Sydney and muted oil prices are also expected to drag down the domestic stocks. The Australian tech shares may trade weak today. That's after the tech-heavy Nasdaq settled lower in overnight trade. Shares we'll be looking at today. Afterpay and Zip will be closely viewed. That's after the buy now, pay later segment's leading players struggled in the previous session, and that's on expectations that Apple's entry into the space could fuel solid competition in the sector. Crude oil prices fell over 2% in the overnight trade. That's after US data revealed that demand weakened a bit in the most recent week. The fall in prices was also triggered by a compromise on supply reached out by the major global oil producers. Australian energy shares such as Woodside Petroleum and Viva Energy could trade on a muted note today. Gold, meanwhile, jumped on Wednesday after Powell's comments. The spot gold price rose around 1%. US gold futures settled 0.8% higher. Gold miners such as Silver Lake Resources and Newcrest Mining may trade higher today. The concerns about demand for the steel-making raw material in China pressured Dalian iron ore futures that ticked higher in range-bound trade. The most traded September iron ore on China's Dalian Commodity Exchange ended daytime trade 0.8% higher. Weak demand from China and uncertainty over surging inflation put pressure on copper prices on Wednesday. The 3-month copper on the London Metal Exchange had slipped 0.8%, the third straight day of losses. That's all from me for now. Stay tuned with Kalkine TV for more live market updates. We'll be back with more news on the markets, economy, diverse themes and sectors, and interviews. Stay tuned to Kalkine TV. I'm Rachel, signing off for now.